bastard cheated on me. Bastard. He lied to my face, gave me a quick kiss, put on his usual black leggings, and told me he was going to work out while entering a motel with another woman. And no, I wasn't told about it. It wasn't a rumor. It wasn't a blurry screenshot. I saw it myself, with my own eyes. And that moment broke something in me that I still haven't managed to fix. The worst part wasn't the motel. The worst part was how easy it was for him to lie to me. The naturalness, the smile, the confidence with which he closed the front door as if nothing was happening, as if I were an idiot who would never connect the dots. And before you think, well, the relationship was already bad, let me tell you something. No. At least that's what I believed. We lived together, shared routines, meals, shows, plans. We had normal arguments, real couple stuff, nothing that screamed cheating, nothing that prepared me for what I was about to see. My name is Jessica. I'm 37 years old. I work all day, come home exhausted, and yes, I trusted him. I really trusted him. His name is Ryan. Gym obsessed. One of those people who never skip a routine, who talk to you about protein, glutes, reps, consistency. I admired him for that. I thought it was discipline. Turns out it was the perfect cover. Everything started changing without me realizing it. Or rather, I noticed but chose to ignore it. Longer schedules, phone always on silent, immediate shower when he got home, perfume, too much perfume for someone supposedly sweating for an hour. When I asked, he looked at me like I was paranoid, and I, like a foolishly in love idiot, believed him. That day was like any other, or so it seemed. He got up early, we had breakfast together, talked about silly things. He told me he was going to the gym in the afternoon because he was trying a new routine. He gave me a kiss, said, "See you later." Nothing weird, nothing out of place, but something in my body felt off. It wasn't a thought, it was a sensation, like an alarm. I went out to run some errands for work and, without thinking too much, passed by the gym area. Not to check on him, I told myself, just to kill time, to buy something. Lie. I was already suspicious, even if I didn't want to admit it. And that's when I saw him. Not entering the gym, not walking on the sidewalk, not sweaty, not rushed. I saw him cross the street, fix his hair, look around, and enter a motel. One of those with no big name, just a discreet sign and low lights. One of those places nobody enters by mistake. I froze, literally. My body didn't respond for several seconds. My mind started filling with possible excuses, absurd, desperate ones. Maybe he made a mistake. Maybe he went in to ask something. Maybe it wasn't him. But it was. That jacket was his. That way of walking was his. That confidence belonged to someone who had done this before. I watched him disappear behind the door and felt something very clear. It wasn't the first time. I stood there, like a spectator of my own humiliation. Heartbroken, something told me not to do anything yet, to wait, to watch, to understand how far the lie went. I sat in the car, turned off the radio, and stared at the motel entrance as if it were a scene that would never end. I thought of all the times he told me, "I'm running late." I stayed chatting. The room was full. I thought of every workout that now had a different meaning, of every time I waited with dinner ready while he was in a room with someone else. And then I realized something that hurt more than the image. He had a double life, organized, careful, planned. I was just another part of the scenery. I didn't know who she was, not yet. Didn't know how long it had been going on. Didn't know what he was going to do. But I did know one thing. There was no going back. I couldn't pretend I hadn't seen what I saw. Something had broken, and what came next was not going to be pretty. I waited. The motel entrance was a fixed point, unchanging, but my mind was running in every direction. I thought about confronting him right there, calling him from the car, yelling at him, but something held me back. Maybe it was shock. Maybe it was the sense that any impulsive reaction would ruin everything, even what little of myself remained. I started remembering things that used to go unnoticed. The messages he deleted quickly, those calls he couldn't answer and then disappeared, the times he left the house and came back smelling different from his usual perfume. Everything fit together now, and it hurt. Every detail that once seemed minor was evidence of betrayal. And the worst part was that I had chosen to ignore it out of love, habit, or fear of facing the truth. Finally, I decided to leave, but not without looking one last time. The door opened, then out came Ryan, smiling, calm, as if nothing was happening. With him, a woman I didn't know, both acting as if they were in their own world, and I were an involuntary spectator. The image burned itself into my mind. It wasn't just the betrayal, it was the normality with which he did it. Heart shattered into 1,000 pieces, I drove aimlessly. The cold city air on my face, every red light felt like a punishment, a reminder that everything I thought was stable had crumbled in minutes. I felt trapped between fury and sadness, between the need to confront him and the urge to escape from that pain. I called a friend, someone I trusted, just to talk. I couldn't tell her what I had seen, not at first. I just needed to hear a voice that wouldn't judge me, that would remind me there was still a world beyond my personal betrayal. I spoke without pauses, without breathing, letting the words flow like a river, carrying all my frustration, disbelief, and sorrow. After a while, breathing a bit easier, I realized I needed to make decisions. I couldn't stay paralyzed with helplessness. I couldn't allow this infidelity to define my life. I had to act, but with a clear head. First, gather evidence, not for revenge, but to protect myself, to have clarity about the magnitude of what was happening. Intuition wasn't enough. I couldn't rely solely on what I had seen, even though the image alone was enough to shred any trust. I headed home, each mile a mix of fear and disappointment. When I arrived, everything looked the same. The door, the kitchen, the living room, but the atmosphere had changed. Home was no longer a refuge. It was a stage for lies. That night felt endless. The city, its lights, the cars, the background noises, while I struggled between confronting him directly the next day or waiting for everything to calm down before acting. Every time I heard the key turn in the door, my body tensed. Every time the phone vibrated, I feared it was him trying to hide something, or worse, her contacting him from somewhere. Finally, I decided to sleep, though it was light and filled with nightmares in which I saw her entering and leaving the motel, always smiling, always confident, while I remained invisible and betrayed. I dreamed of confrontations that never happened, of shouts that never came out, of tears that fell but weren't mine. I woke up multiple times, checking the time, imagining that any moment I might receive a message confirming what I already knew, that my life as I knew it had fractured into 1,000 pieces. The next morning, I got up determined. There was no turning back. I couldn't pretend nothing had happened. I couldn't allow the lies to continue. I prepared myself with the calm I hadn't felt the night before. First, speak with him, face to face. Then, understand the extent of his betrayal. And finally, decide my path. Stay together? Impossible. Leave? Painful, but necessary. Betrayal isn't healed with excuses or sweet words. When I finally saw him come downstairs, everything seemed normal. Coffee in hand, the smile I once loved, daily routine. But I knew what was behind that facade, and that certainty gave me strength. Strength to face him, to put words where there had been silence, to take control of my life again. The conversation was harsh, direct, unflinching. I didn't yell, I didn't cry. I simply said what I saw and how I felt. His attempts to deny it were clumsy. The lies crumbled with every sentence. Finally, the truth came out, raw, painful, and even though part of me still felt love, I understood it was over. There was no room left for trust, security, or peace. That moment, standing in my own home while he packed his things, was a breaking point. I felt fear, sadness, anger. The motel was no longer just a place in the city. It was something more, a reminder that appearances deceive, that words can be traps, that trust is a treasure that cannot be recovered once destroyed. And as he left, closing the door behind him, I knew something inside me was closing too. But that closed door also opened a new possibility to rebuild my life, this time without lies, without hiding, without betrayal. I will never forget that day. I will never forget his smile as he entered the motel, nor the sense of helplessness that washed over me. Life goes on, even when trust is broken. And even though it hurts, the first step towards freedom always begins with facing reality, no matter how harsh it may be. This is my story, raw, real, a testament of what happens when lies become a habit, when love mixes with deceit, and when one discovers that the truth, no matter how painful, always deserves to be faced.